Hey, do it's your boy Nextstop Sirchcity, and guess what? Welcome back to another episode of the Food We Watch podcast. I know. It's been a long time. Shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to, but life was life and had a lot going on. Decided to take some time off to deal with a lot of stuff and plan out how we wanted to go about this channel. But guess what, guys? Every waking moment, I thought about you. And I knew someday I would make my way back to you. Before we get started, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We are growing. We are growing. I think we're over 600 followers on YouTube. We're just trying to keep it going. We have another TV show or another internet show, Watch Us React, that started a couple of weeks ago, where we just react to some of the most funniest kitchen catastrophes and mess ups and different foods and mukbangs and all those things. So make sure you check that out as well. That is on the Normals Be Chefing channel as well. But guess what? You know what we are here for. We are here to review food shows. Now, up until this point, we primarily have only done food shows based around Gordon Ramsay. I thought what way to bring us back is to do something that has to do with summer, something that I love to do, even though I'm up in the northeast section of the United States. You really don't hear about the barbecue scene as much, but I love the barbecue. I love barbecue. It is summertime and it's barbecue weather. So I found the TV show on Netflix called Barbecue Showdown. Okay. It is in its third season, so we're going to review season 3. And if for whatever reason we like the show, you want us to keep reviewing it, maybe we'll go back and watch season 1 and 2. Okay? But this is a cooking or a barbecue competition. It has about, I believe, 10, 12 contestants. They go head to head each week doing different challenges around barbecuing in hopes to win the grand prize of $50,000 and a brand new offset smoker and to claim to be the champion of barbecuing. So, what we're going to do is we're going to review season 3, episode 1. All right. Now, again, if you want, follow along with us. Let us know how you feel in the comments about these episodes. Also, let us know what food shows you want us to review. What do you tune into? We can watch it together. Maybe eventually we can have watch live events where we can watch episodes together. All right, I just knocked something over. We're going to keep it moving. All right, so this show, Barbecue Showdown, is hosted by Michelle Butois. We have the judges, Melissa Cookson. She is a pitmaster and a 7-time uh, world champion barbecue. Well, I'm sorry, world barbecue champion. I'm not editing none of this out. You're gonna take the mess ups to the face. I don't care. And then the second judge is Kevin Bledsoe. He is a James Beard Award pitmaster and a best-selling author. So they got some two giants in the barbecue community back to be the judges for this competition. All right, so let's meet the contestants. Okay, we have first contestant Shatika Robinson from Nashville, Tennessee. We got Kent Rollins from Hollis, Oklahoma. Gerald Vanette from St. Rose, Louisiana. Stacy Jett from Brooksville, Kentucky. Kareem El Gayesh from Austin, Texas, by way of Egypt. Good story there. Luis Rivera from Chicago, by way of Venezuela. Tung Nguyen from New Orleans. He is Vietnamese. And we have Sloan Rinaldi from Houston, Texas. And to round it out, we have Melissa. They did not give her last name, from Orlando, Florida. All right. So the first competition was just to go into it. If you look at this set is a barbecuer's dream, a pit master's dream. They got offset pits, they got barrels, they got open fire, they have everything you need to make the perfect barbecue. I am highly jealous. I was sitting here drooling at just the equipment alone. telling you, it is if you are a pitmaster or you just love barbecue, this is a great show to watch. First challenge, um, they got access to this meat locker, stock full of the primest meats. I'm talking tomahawks, I'm talking short ribs, I'm talking table ribs, I'm talking everything, ribeye roast, every type of top meat you could think of. They had access to. Boy, oh boy. But they had about 5.5 hours to cook with a bone in meat, and the meat and the concept of their dishes had to tell a story about themselves. Right off rip, contestants they took off to the meat locker, start grabbing their cuts. Now, I don't know about y'all. I ain't never had no bison. Never even thought to eat bison. But Stacy went with the bison. She's making bison spare ribs. Not gonna lie, kind of intriguing. Like I said, we're used to cow. I'm up north. I don't know nothing about no bison, but I don't know. I might check that out. I might have to see if I can get a cut of that bison and throw it on the grill and see how that tastes. All right, and then we had Melissa from Florida. I don't really hear too much about barbecue in Florida, but she's from Florida, I believe Orlando, Florida. She chose the chuck short rib, and she planned on doing this strawberry red wine barbecue sauce. Kind of threw me off a little bit, thought it may be too sweet for some short ribs, but hopefully she can pull that off. And then we have Kareem. He went into explaining his journey. He's from Egypt, Kairos, Egypt. One day he came over to visit, I believe, his cousin in Texas. And as soon as he took his first bite of that slow cooked, I believe it was steak, he was hooked. So he moved halfway across the country, and he now owns a food truck doing barbecue. He planned for this competition to make slow cooked oxtails with a caramelized onion, bone marrow, and anchovy chimichurri. Now, Shatika, who is also known as the bougie barbecuer, she planned on doing a Caribbean rubbed dino rib. Those ribs were so huge and looked so delicious. She did a roasted parsnip potato salad with glazed green beans and carrots with a whiskey creme brulee. So she bougie barbecuer she is. All right, that did sounded delicious. And then we have Lewis from Chicago. He picked the tomahawk, one of my favorite steaks to cook. I'm actually going to be cooking tomahawks this weekend. If you are in the Philadelphia, Delaware, which is Claymont and Wilmington area, um, Delaware County, we are barbecuing this weekend. We have our platter day, which is July 27th. Order forms is in the link of the bio on at Normals Be Chefing on IG. You can see it posted all through Normals Be Chefing Facebook page, everywhere. So if you want, we have platters, we have smoked chicken wings, we have tomahawks, we have barbecue platters that you can choose from, family size, double size, individual. Hit us up. You have until July 25th to place your order. But yeah, he picked the tomahawk. He created this chimichurri that was going to also act as a marinade. He also was going to do guacamole to show off his Venezuelan culture and he was going to make tortillas from scratch. So he also was doing a Venezuelan slaw. So we're going to see. We're going to see if all of that sounds like a lot to do. I know you have 5 hours, and I know some of you may be thinking, well, if you have 5 hours, you'll be able to get all that done, right? You should, but barbecuing or slow cooking, smoking is a different way of cooking. Even though it takes a lot of time, it still takes a lot of technique as well. Got to keep an eye on that meat that's smoking. No homo. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, he got a lot going on. Hopefully he can pull it off. Now we got my man Kent from Oklahoma. He is a 66-year-old chuck wagon barbecuer. He's been a cowboy his whole life, and he sure does look like one. He plans to make a bone-in ribeye roast with a bone marrow, dino taters, and ancho chili chocolate cake. Um, Kent said he's known for oversalting because they're from Texas. You know, they sweat a lot, so you need that sodium. So he planned on cutting back on his salting, which may kind of hurt him in the long run. When you're cooking those big cuts of meat, you definitely want to make sure you have enough salt. Some of it will come off as it's cooking, so you just want to make sure it's salted. You don't want to like pour buckets of salt, but you do want that salt to be coated. So I don't know. We're gonna see. Hopefully, it works out for him. I mean, I'm not gonna wait till I get into a competition to change what I do. I'm gonna do what I do, how I do what I do, and leave it all on the table. Judges were worried though, because decided to do a ribeye roast, which is a thick cut. Instead of it being cut, it's just the actual roast. They were worried that it won't cook as well. You know, you won't get the seasoning all through the meat as you would with the individually cut steak. So they were a little worried for him. They just thought he should have cut it up. But we're gonna see if it works out for Kent. Kent, he's been doing it for years. He's 66. Maybe he got some tricks up his sleeve. Now we go to Tongue. Tongue decides to do plated ribs. He wanted to do the beef ribs, short ribs that Shatika had, but she beat him to it. Hey, you gotta be fun. I'm fast. I'm telling you, they took off to that meat locker, and she got what she wanted. So he was stuck with a plated steak, which are these huge steaks that's going to take entirely too long to cook. Plus, he's not experienced with a lot of bone-in meats. Me personally, if I'm not experienced, I'm not going to try. Even though she took the short ribs, they had a locker full of different meats. I would have went a different direction, maybe with the oxtail, kind of like it is bone in, but it ain't. It's not to the point where it's going to take too long or to cook. So I think he should have went another direction. You guys let me know what you think. But yeah, he chose to play the steak. He was going to put a twist to it. He was going to make a bolak lak, which is Vietnamese inspired dish, curry mac and cheese, Vietnamese slaw, and a homemade steak sauce. So we're going to see. I don't know. This is a challenge for him. Again, he doesn't really have a lot of experience cooking bone in. So we're going to see. Now the judges already don't like how Kareem is cooking his oxtail. Kareem is doing oxtail and he's doing the tomahawk. They already thought, I don't think you should put it in the pressure cooker. Why? Because you can lose some of that flavor, some of that smokiness, some of that salt content while cooking it in a pressure cooker. Um, Now, what he did do was at first he was just going to cook the oxtail, but Kareem did double back and say, hey, let me go also cook one of the large tomahawks just in case. But hopefully he's not doing too much. Tomahawks, I mean, they're cool. I mean, they're cool. You don't have to do a lot to them. Salt, pepper, let them smoke. He's doing a reverse sear. I preferably, and I had to talk with one of my friends about this. I normally do sear and then I smoke, just because I like to lock in the flavor. And it could be just me. You guys let me know in the chat. Which way do you like to cook or grill your steak? Do you like to sear, then let it bake? Ooh. But you guys let me know in the chat. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to sear and then let it cook in the oven or on a grill, slow cook on a grill? Or do you like the reverse sear? I preferably do the sear first. That's just me. That's how I was taught. But I think I'm gonna start doing. I think I'm gonna try it on this platter. There, I'm gonna try the reverse sear. Let it smoke up and then sear it at the end. We're going to see, but let us know in the chat, which do you prefer, the sear before or the sear after? All right, and then we have our homie Sloan. We have Sloan. She goes into her background. She's the fourth generation pitmaster, over 100 years of pitmasters in her family. Not only that, she is the first female pitmasters in her family. That's dope. That's pretty dope. A lot of times you hear about men being a pitmaster and things like that, but it's dope to see the women out here burning it up on these grills and these smokers too. All fair and love and barbecue. That's how I see it. She decides to do a rib roast for her protein, and it was looking good. It was looking real good. She was basting it with that butter. Yo, if you don't base your steak with that butter, I make a butter. We call it crack sauce. That goes crazy over a tomahawk. And yes, she was doing the exact same thing. Now, Kent, I'm sorry, decided to make biscuits for one of his sides in a Dutch oven. He's taking it back. Throwback. Only thing is, may have had it on just a little bit too hot because he eventually ended up burning the bottom of them biscuit. They look good, but think he was moving just a little bit too fast. Sloan also, she one of her sides are her family baked beans. She was just a little worried that bacon. She said the main thing is having that bacon rendered down. She just wanted to make sure she had time to do that. Judges then make their way over to Tong, and well, they were talking about what he was doing. Tong was just, I don't know. I don't know. He seemed a little bit out of his element. I don't know how long he has been barbecuing for. I'm not going to say I am a professional barbecuer. I am not. I do it in the backyard. I am still learning techniques. I haven't cooked with a bunch of different cuts. I would be the Tong of the show. I'm good, but I ain't that good yet. They were worried because he was going to be doing like this real sweet sauce, and they told him, sometimes sweet and smoky don't always go together. Um, Melissa, this shows how inexperienced he is. Melissa then asks Tong, "Hey, are you going to be crutching your ribs?" And Tong was like, "What? Like, huh? Okay, okay, okay." He didn't know what crutching is. Basically, what crutching is when you're cooking slabs of meat like ribs. Um, Once the internal temperature reaches about like 150, 165 ish, what you want to do is wrap them. You wrap, I forgot the kind of paper, but you'll normally see it if you watch barbecue things. You'll see like that orangish, brownish paper that they wrap it with. What it does is it helps the cook a little bit faster, but it also locks in that moisture, so you keep a lot of that flavor. So normally when you're smoking meats and things like that, um, after a certain time, you wrap it and then you let it finish off in the cook. That helps locks in everything. He didn't know what that was. The judges walked away from him. He was trying to make it make sense. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna wrap it at 190." And Melissa's like, "Wait a minute, you're gonna wrap your ribs at 190 when technically you probably want your ribs to come off about those large ribs should be coming off at 190." So they were nervous for him. They was like, "Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing." She said his idea sounds like a train wreck. And I started to feel bad for this man. Like, dang, like, yeah, he ain't got a lot of experience, but he said he doesn't have a lot of experience with bone in. You don't just wrap bone in. You can wrap the roast, um, anything that's a large piece of meat. You can eventually wrap. It doesn't have to have the bone. So not only did he not have experience with bone in, didn't really have experience with the techniques. So that's what kind of threw me off a little bit about him. I don't really know how long he's been barbecuing. Now, Luis. Luis, I feel like is going to have trouble this competition, and here's why. Luis literally knows from previous seasons that Melissa does not like heat. Yet he chose to make his guacamole with these real hot red peppers. Now, it was a mistake at first. It was a mistake, but he had time to change. Why? In your mind, they literally shown a flashback of when Melissa had some spice and wasn't aware of it, and it was a ghost pepper, and she was upset. You know this. Why would you then say, screw it? Oh, it can't be my culture without the heat. Yeah, you can add a little bit of heat. What I would have did is I would have remade the guacamole. I would have reduced the amount of pepper, hot pepper, and with some a little bit more of the sweet side, just to have a little heat without having all that spice. That's just me. I would have changed it up. I know she's not gonna like this. Why would I even think about doing it? Um, Now Shatika eventually does crunch her ribs. You see her wrapping it up, but guess what she does? Unfortunately, unfortunately, she forgets to add her butter base with her brown sugar. And for the rest of the competition, she's just freaking out. She's like, "Oh my god, we don't have much time. It's like 15 minutes left. I don't know what I'm going to do." Me personally, what I I would have added the butter. I wouldn't have added the brown sugar. Um, because you didn't really give it enough time to like really cook down, and it can, and with you trying to rush and put the brown sugar on, to me you could kind of burn or make your ribs or whatever you rub it on taste bitter. You kind of want to cook that low and slow and keep the brown sugar moist so it doesn't glaze over. And with that little bit of time up, I would have just went with the butter and kept it moving. At least it would have been, got that buttery taste to it. But we're going to see if it works out for her. We don't know. Um, Melissa from Orlando, who is doing, I believe, the short ribs, she, this whole time she's barbecuing, she does not put any wood chips or any wood in her barbecue, in her pit. And she realizes that after the fact, around the time where she has to go and wrap her meat, she's like, oh crap, there's no wood in here. If y'all don't know nothing about barbecue, barbecue is cool, with the charcoal and everything, but ain't nothing about some good wood chips. Some good wood chips to make it taste. It takes it to the next level. It adds another level of flavor. She forgets. She puts the wood in after the fact. After she wraps them. In my mind, I'm like, you might as well have left the wood out because you wrapped them. Is not going to bring in any of the wood flavor because you already wrapped them. So to me, it was a missed opportunity. But we're going to see if this affects her in the judging. Luis, again, he marinated his steak for about 2.5 hours. Didn't put the steak on to smoke until the last hour and a half, which with those size steaks, they needed at least 2 hours to smoke. And then he did the reverse sear. I don't know. I think he was I think he was doing too much. I know he wanted to show off his Venezuelan background, but I think he was putting too much effort into other things and not really focusing on the meat. 5 hours is a long time, but it can go by real fast. I'll be outside smoking my meats, barbecuing, and next thing I know, I'm like, dang, it's been an hour and a half already. Like it goes by. So I think he waited too long. I think he was trying to do too much. As you, if you watch the episode at the end where it's like 15-20 minutes left, he's running back and forth, burning his tortillas, trying to get everything together. He made a mistake by putting the extra hot red peppers in the guacamole. I think he was just doing too much. I think he needed to edit himself down a little bit and focus more on what the actual competition was about, which was the prime meats. Now, then we have Tongue. He checks his ribs and realized, oh snap, they're not tender, meaning he overcooked them. Kevin did say he was worried about Tongue because the beef ribs, he was the first to put his meat on in the pit to smoke. So he had the longest time. Kevin even said, I think he should have been took them ribs. I don't know what he's waiting for. And when Tongue goes to check, the meat was tight. It was not tender. So he tried to hide his mistake with his barbecue sauce. Judges see him adding this barbecue sauce, and they were like, "I don't think he should be doing this. Like, what are you doing? I think it's going to be too sweet, and you may actually kind of burn your over. You could overdo it with your ribs." But he did what he had to do. Um, and again, 15 minutes ago, everybody was losing their mind. Shatika was worried. She didn't take her ribs out to the last minute. Didn't The judges were worried because it's like you're not going to have time to let it rest. Same thing with Tong. Um, didn't give time to let it rest. He actually put the ribs back in, thinking that they would get tender, which I don't know why he would think that would happen. Um, but that's what he did. All in all, first competition of episode 1 was a dope competition. I enjoyed it. And again, it's summertime, it's barbecue weather. I'm telling you guys, this is a show you definitely want to watch. So let's get into the judging. So the contestants had to cut their meat up tableside because the judges wanted to look at how everything came out, the smoke rings, things like that. Kareem, he had again the reverse seared tomahawk and the smoked oxtails. They said the tomahawk was cooked perfectly. It was a perfect medium, smoky and flavorful. Oxtail looked so good, seasoned, but it did lose a little of its salt in the pressure cooker. But other than that, everything turned out great. Kent, who did the ribeye roast, it wasn't seasoned enough. And again, as I stated before, go with what you know. He's maybe a little bit heavy-handed on the salt as he thought he would be. Decided to change it up for the competition, and turned out to be under-seasoned. And the bone wasn't charred; he just had dirty smoke, so it was more so burnt than charred. And the biscuits were overcooked at the bottom, as we already stated. Next, we have Sloan, who did the prime rib roast. Flavors on the ribs and the smoke taste, and the flavor on the ribs and the smoke taste just like Texas. They enjoyed her dish so much, and they said the baked beans were so good that you could drink them. So shout out to Sloan with her dish. Next, we have Gerald. Excellent job. Oxtails were tendered. Great smoke ring. Braise was on point. Next, we have Shatika, who was really worried about her dish. She did the Caribbean rub dino ribs. They stated the Caribbean flavors were on point, perfect, tender. But the bark was a little bitter. The reason being is because she put that brown sugar in at the last minute, and I think it kind of burned rather than, cooked down and gave that sweet taste. We have Stacy. She did the bison rib with the Montreal rub. They just thought it was too sweet. The sauce was too sweet, but they still loved the flavor of the meat. Then we have Melissa, who did the short ribs, and Kevin even said it. These were perfectly cooked barbecue ribs. The one thing she was missing, which she probably would have won, is that there was no smoke flavor. So that kind of hurt her in the long run. But, we got more competition to go. We'll see how that goes. Next, we have Tong. He did the plated ribs. Now, Melissa did say she was a little worried about the sauce, but she could live with it. It wasn't too sweet or overpowering. But it doesn't have a good chew, meaning that it was not tender. It was chewy. But it had a good flavor of meat. The macaroni and cheese was rubbery. And Kevin thought in the amount of time he cooked them and all the things he was doing, he thought there should be way more flavor to his ribs. And last but not least, we have Luis. He did the tomahawk steak, and it was a little undercooked. Guac, as stated, was really spicy. They weren't too happy about that, but he kind of said, "Hey, this is how we do it, blah, 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 blah." So kind of said, "This is how we do it in our culture. Live with it." And then Kevin kind of was just like, "Look, with a marinade of 2 hours, his tomahawk should have had way more flavor than what it had. So that was the first episode. That was the first competition. All in all, I think everyone, except for like maybe like really one person, did pretty good. Even with Luis, at the last minute with his steak, I think if he would have added on an extra 45 minutes to that smoke, would have turned out a little bit better. All in all, the judges picked a winner. The winner of the first competition was Kareem. Kareem, the Egyptian cowboy, took first place in the first competition of season 3. Congratulations to you, my guy. It just goes to show that you really take your craft serious. You come all the way from the other side of the world, goes to Texas, learns how to barbecue, and literally comes on this competition and kills it. Good job. Then they gave a special recognition to Shatika because they saw her efforts when she was messing up. Um, they said she could have folded under the pressure, but she didn't. She rushed to try to get it done. Still came out with a good dish. Again, it just was a little bitter, but all in all, she did a great job. Now, who they like the least, you guessed it, Kent and Tongue. Kent with his underseasoned ribeye roast. Again, he should have cut it up and he should have salted them things just a little bit more. And Tongue just didn't know anything. I don't know what he was trying to do. He was lost in the sauce, no pun intended. But there has to be one loser, just one. Sadly, we have to say goodbye to Tongue. Yeah, from the jump, I don't know. It looked a little lost. I mean, it was great that you made the show, but just looked a little lost. But Kevin even said it. Look, you got a long way to go. This is just the beginning. I think he's young. I think he's young in the game of being a pitmaster. So, hey, take your time, learn your craft. Same way I'm doing. I'm out here trying to learn it. I'm a baby in this smoking business, and I'm trying to get my bearings. So it takes a lot to go on some of these shows and put your skills to the test, not knowing what's going to happen. So congratulations for making this show. All right. Now, I know. Y'all like, dang, y'all just came back and it's already time to go? Yes, it is. I have things to do. I have recipes to create. All in all, I'm glad that we're back. We're going to keep this thing going. Again, we are reviewing Barbecue Showdown on Netflix, season 3. Join along, hop in the comments, let me know. Again, reverse sear versus a regular sear on a steak. Let me know in the comments what you choose. Also, do you agree with the judge's decision to send Tong home? Do you think maybe Kent should have went home because he couldn't even season his meat, even though he knows how to season meat and he's been doing it for he's 66 years old? I don't know. Me, I think they got it right, but you let us know in the chat. Before we go, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and follow. Turn on the notification button so you will be notified when we go live or we drop a episode. But before I let you go, I gotta let you know that good things come and good things go. Life is like a box of chocolate, but we back. I holla.